Hey, welcome back everybody. So today I just wanted to make a quick video about my Panthera and some of the stuff that I've done to make it a little bit better for myself for competing in NRL 22. So I am by no means a expert shooter or anything like that. This is my first year competing in NRL 22 in general, and I'm starting out in Airgun class, which compared to a 22 rimfire, I'd say is slightly more difficult, only because there's a lot more tuning and things involved than just slapping in some rounds that you got a good lot number off of and just go out and shoot it with the practice that you have. So I think there's a lot more involved in the airgun side of NRL 22, and so there is a little bit more of a steep learning curve, I would say, but I don't think that should discourage anybody from going out and trying. I've had a blast this season, and I've really improved from the start of the season till now. I am still not very high on the leaderboard or anything, but I've come from at the very bottom to up towards around, I'm like 13th right now. But that being said, it's not that impressive because there's not very many of us in the Airgun class, but that's all right. It's growing in popularity, and I've really been enjoying this a lot more than I ever have shooting rimfire. And so I think just keeping in mind that you're going out there to have a good time and just learn and improve your own skills and stuff like that. So I'm not really worried about, how I am doing in the national leaderboards. But I've been getting some questions on some of the other videos I did, and so I just wanted to talk about some of the stuff I've done, because at least like a couple of these things that I've done I haven't really seen other people talk about or do in general, and so I just wanted to go over those. So I'm going to start in the back, because that is one thing that I get a lot of questions about, is this bag rider that I've made. So I'm not the first person to do this. I saw some other people competing and had done this online, and so I basically just copied their design. So I don't know exactly who to give credit for this, but it was a pretty simple piece to make. It just took some time and some patience, but basically what this is, it's just a piece of aluminum bar stock that I've bent up into a bag rider. So it's I think this is 1/8 inch thick aluminum that I got at Home Depot, and I just bent 90 degrees into, and then kind of a step up to kind of meet the bottle here. And then it's pretty sturdy, but originally I did have like a Velcro strap around it, but I found out that I don't really need that as much. But pretty easy to make, but the aluminum that you buy at Home Depot is lower quality aluminum. It's pretty brittle, and so I did crack a couple of my first tries, because this 90-degree bend in here is pretty hard to do without cracking the aluminum. So I had to use a lot of heat. I used a vise and like 2 different pairs of pliers, but I was able to get it around my 3rd or 4th try. And then since I didn't crack those, I moved on to the other bends, and then those are like 245-degree angles, so they were a lot easier to do. But having a bag rider on this, at least for me, has helped a lot when I'm trying to shoot in the prone or off a bench, because I have that bag down there, and it really takes up a lot of that dead space and gives you a lot better control of the bag for your elevation, and really helps the rifle stay more secure. So that's what I did. I just bent it up myself. So on the Panthera and the dynamic block in general, there's not a lot of Picatinny up on the top in this section here. So when you're trying to add levels or timers or other things, there's not a whole lot of real estate. But when you do add those things, they're kind of far up on the center of the rifle more. And when I had the MDT level, the Send It level, it was kind of too far out of my eyesight personally to be able to see it very well. And so what I've done is I've extended the Picatinny backwards with this piece from TDI Arms. It's called the Rex. It's for an AK actually, but it extends the Picatinny backwards and down slightly. And I put the Shooter's Global Pulse back here, which I've been liking more than the MDT Send It level. I feel like this is a lot brighter, and it offers just a lot more functions for training and things like that. But anyways, it brings it pretty much flush with the eyepiece here. So when I'm up on the rifle, it's like right in my eyesight, and so I don't have to like kind of search around to try to find it, if that makes sense. It's just right there. And this thing is super bright, and I've been liking it a lot more, like I said, than the Send It level. Not saying that the Send It level isn't a great product. I do like it very much, but this doesn't stick out as much, and I didn't want to spend the extra money to get the 90-degree mount for the MDT, so this has been working out really great for me. So coming up from there, I have an Element Optics Nexus. This is a really great optic, and I've really been liking a lot of the different features that it has. And I've ordered the dry erase turret tapes, and that has been a really big game changer for me, is being able to dial elevation a lot faster because I can prep this with the different holdovers that I need before the stage starts. I can drop it on, and then I don't have to rely on my data sheet as much, which just helps me be able to speed up a little bit because I'm still pretty slow, but this has helped me speed up just a little bit. So I'm running a trigger cam. I do feel like this is one of the easier scope cams to use because it allows you to focus the camera on the back here without having to adjust the optical system in the back. If you don't know what I'm talking about, if you've ever used a Tacticam, for example, you have to adjust the ocular parallax adjustment to get the camera to focus because the camera itself doesn't have any focusing capability. And this camera has the focus wheel up on the top. So once you connect your phone and pair it up or connect it to an external screen, you're able to get it in focus pretty easily without having to worry about changing anything. So I've been liking this a lot. The battery seems to last pretty long, so it's not that big of a deal. For the data cards, I'm using the Coltac cheat sheet. There's a lot of different versions of these out there, but I just like theirs in particular because you can get them on Amazon and they're relatively cheap and they're really great quality, so no complaints there. The biggest modification to this, I would say, is probably this Air Marksman Undertaker rail. Compared to the factory rail, this thing is super rigid, and it allows you to add a lot more weight onto the front. So, at least for the Panthera, I don't know about the dynamic, but you do need to add quite a bit of weight on the front of these to be able to balance it out. And so I do have a full set of internal weights that I've made, and 2 sets of the external weights. And right now it's pretty much right where it needs to be. I probably could take out a little bit, but been doing fairly well with this amount of weight. I don't know exactly how much weight it is in there. I need to weigh this thing out, but it's heavy. This thing is heavy. So the other nice thing about that is it has a full Arca rail on the bottom, and so that's what I have the bipod attached to. And this is an Atlas bipod that I've done quite a bit of modifications to be able to function a lot better for competition. And so I made a whole video about that specifically, but just a quick recap. What I've done is the accuracy driven slapjacks, which allow the legs to deploy without having to depress the buttons. So what I mean is I can just slap these down and they come down. From the factory, you have to depress the button and then bring each leg down individually. And when you're trying to get this thing to deploy fast, it takes quite a while, but now it's pretty quick. I have the Annex Defense anti-cant throw lever on there. So what that does is it adjusts the tension for your tilt, but it allows you to do it kind of one-handed a lot easier than trying to adjust the knob at the bottom. And then I have the Leo Photo adapter on here. And so this bipod originally had a Picatinny mount on it, and the Leo Photo mount lets you have Arca and Picatinny in the same mount. So it's pretty interesting, but it's a really great design. So now I can throw this on pretty much any of my setups a lot faster than having to put a like Picatinny section underneath the Arca here. So internally, I've done some upgrades to this. I won't say it was necessary. It was mainly because I like to tinker with stuff, and I tinkered with it. So I put the 8mm hammer in here with the higher power spring from Huma Air, but to be honest, I think the spring is a little bit overpowered for what I need. So I'm actually going to go back to the factory spring, but I'm going to keep the 8mm hammer in there. And then I've done the Huma Air transfer port, which is a little bit larger diameter than the factory one. And I've done the pin probe. So even though these shoot slugs, they still have the pellet probe from the factory. So I switched that out. And then I've done the Huma Air regulator. So all of the Huma Air products are really nice, but I have been having some problems with the regulator. And this is probably just like a one-off thing because I've heard nothing but great things from Huma Air. But my regulator isn't very consistent, and I don't know what it can be. I am going to pull this back out again and re-lube the springs that are in there. I guess, I don't know if you'd really call them springs, they're more like discs, but it's kind of a spring. So I need to pull this out and probably re-lubricate those again with some different kind of lubricant. But I am not getting the kind of consistency that I've seen other people be able to get. I am going to stick with the Huma Air for a while longer. I'm going to tinker with it a bit more and try to get some more consistency out of it. And if I can't do that, then I'm going to go back to the amp regulator, which is fine. And so that's just what I've done. And to just be honest, some of the issues that I've had with that product so far, but I wouldn't discourage anybody from upgrading to their products. So on the other side, I've done the Sekhmet digital gauges. Again, this is completely unnecessary and just something I wanted to do because I wanted to check them out. But the gauges are really nice and function really well. I would say you don't really need one for the regulator, but having one for the air pressure side is really nice because it can tell you a bunch of different data on there. Like shots per fill, how much air you've consumed per shot, different things like that. It gives you all that information on the gauge. Having that kind of information was just kind of cool, but you don't really need two of them. I would say maybe just buy one and replace the bottom gauge, which is your air pressure. And then on the front, I've switched from using a moderator over to a muzzle brake. And I've talked about this in some of my other videos, but the reason is because with the moderator on here, these are really quiet. And when you're out competing and someone is spotting for you to be, call your hits, if you miss and they don't know that you've missed because it's so quiet, they might think that you're on a different shot count than you actually are. And so this has happened 2 times to me, and I've lost some points that way because the spotter and the scorer think that you're out of sequence and then you lose those points. But having the muzzle brake on there, it's very obvious when I'm shooting now because it's very efficient actually, but it just is an incredible plume of compressed air coming out of the front of this. So helped with the recoil, surprisingly, and it's loud, which in a competition is a good thing in my opinion. So they can hear the shots. If you miss, they know you've missed and you can move on to the next target. It's not a big deal. That is why I switched to that. By the way, this is from Delta Force, and I've really been liking this one, but there is a bunch of different muzzle brakes out there. But if you haven't tried a muzzle brake on an air rifle yet, you might give one a go. You'd probably be surprised how much more efficient it is at controlling the recoil. So I think that's pretty much covered what I've done to this, but if you guys have more questions, let me know. I'm constantly tinkering with this and trying to figure out a setup that's really working for me. Well, I just finished the last match of the year, and so going into January, I think I'll probably start trying to change some stuff around, and at least for this first couple matches of the year, see if I can get it dialed in a little bit more. As far as projectiles, I've been kind of all over the place. I really like the H&N precision slugs, the 33 grains, but I've also just been shooting the 34 grain heavy slugs, and both of those have been working out really great. So those have been kind of the main slugs that I've been jumping around between and trying to figure out a weight and setup that works great. For right now, the 34 grains have actually been grouping the best for me, but it just kind of depends on who you talk to. But everybody kind of finds a different slug and weight that really shoots great out of their rifle, and for For some reason, mine really likes the 34 grains. So, like I said, I am always kind of messing around with that. I did order some Alteros slugs from Czech Republic. The consistency seems to be really great because of the way that they machine those on a lathe. So I'm excited to get those in and try them out. They should be here any day now. But other than that, I have a competition in about 2 weeks. But between now and then, I'm going to play with the regulator, pull it out, reseal it, get it going again, see if I can really get that consistency out of it that I need. And I'm going to end up changing that hammer spring out back to the factory one and then get everything retuned in. Thanks for sticking around for my video, guys. I'll see you on the next one.